The upcoming Chronicle Wish in Genshin is fantastic. It has several characters that have not been featured in a while. Shenhe. It also has many characters that are widely regarded as good, but should you actually pull on it? Let's look into it. Hi, I'm Jay'sFire 2023, and I'm doing a little look into the new Chronicle Wish. Just a quick note before we get into it, I do not have any of these characters, I just did some research on them. If you don't know who the characters featured on this banner will be, they are Baizhu, Ganyu, Keqing, Qiqi, Shenhe, Tartaglia, and Zhao. This is a diverse range of characters when it comes to team position. From healer to DPS to buffer, I think this banner will absolutely make Hoyoverse money, because many of these units are good. With the research I did, it looks like the best character on this banner is easily Baizhu. Highly placed among the best characters, and being F2P friendly, combined with his great flexibility in teams due to his being a healer, he is an overall great pick. Now, what are some drawbacks to him? Well, according to KeqingMains.com, his normal attacks have a limited range. I personally don't see this as a downside, because he's a healer, and one of the best in the game. He doesn't have great damage, even if he has 5-star catalysts and constellations. Again, Baizhu is mainly a healer, so I would not see that as a negative. His ZR requirements are high, so that is something to consider. His weapon choices are F2P friendly. His signature weapon, Jadefall Splendor, is good on him, but R5 prototype Amber is extremely comparable to it. Notice that I said Jadefall Splendor is good on him. The site says that it is only useful on Baizhu, really, which is not good for us free-to-plays. Prototype Amber, on the other hand, is obtainable for everyone because it is a crafted weapon, and it's good on several units. Favonius Codex can help take down those ER requirements, which will be good with my artifact rolls. Now, there is also the weapon that is good on every catalyst wielding healer. That is Thrilling Tales of Dragon Slayers. Yes, this also works on Baizhu. Artifacts I don't count in how F2P friendly a character is because they're obtained through domains accessible to everyone once you hit AR 45. Last thing, is he a flexible unit? Yes, he is a healer and can fit into many team compositions. If you want more information on any of the things I say in this video, I'll throw all the links down in the description. Also, take all the tier lists with a grain of salt. People can be talking about the exact same character in the exact same meta and say very different things. One of these ranked Ganyu as obsolete. And Ganyu isn't an obsolete DPS, she's just been overshadowed by some other people. She still has a very simple playstyle that deals significant damage. Next character to talk about is actually Ganyu. She looks to be F2P friendly. If you don't think that these ratings are accurate, take your problem up with the internet. Combining her good weapon selection, good 4-star teammate options, and still having high and consistent damage even due to power creep, she's overall a good unit. Some drawbacks to her are that she mainly relies on charged attacks, which make her extremely vulnerable due to the charging time. She also needs specific teammates, which can be extremely good units used in next to every team, like Bennett. This means that the opportunity cost is high, because Bennett is used in so many teams that if you use them in one, you can't use them in another, sadly. I wish there were 2 Bennetts and 2 Zhanglings. She also needs different teammates for her different teams, so you have to build a wide variety of characters depending on if you want to have multiple teams. One of her best weapons is Amos Bow, which solidly beats out the 4-star options in melt teams. Out of her top 4 weapons, this one is the best use for her in the overworld, as the others have not so reliable passives. In freeze teams, a highly refined prototype Crescent can outperform this bow. Overall though, Her best weapon is the first great magic. In almost every situation, it is in the top 2 weapons. Ganyu has several builds, so it would take a while to go over everything. Instead, just check out other things through the links in the description. Polar Star is her best in slot in Mono Cryo and Freeze comps. It is also good in Melt teams, so long as its stacks can be maintained. Its crit rate stat is particularly good in Melt and Mono Cryo. The stat lets you focus on other stats in the artifacts. Next up, Aqua Simulacra. Overall comparable or just shy to other great options, it only falls short in her Mono Cryo and solo teams. This is due to its lack of attack. Its passive is very reliable though. Last of the 5-star options, Hunter's Path. However, please take this weapon out of banner jail. This one is only good for Melt teams, but it is her best in slot for that reaction. This is due to its EM buffing. That is also exactly why it isn't good in the other teams, because EM isn't needed in Freeze and Mono Cryo and those teams. I'll go through the 4-star weapons quicker because this section is getting quite long. Prototype Crescent is her best 4-star weapon. Hamayumi is the best option in Melt teams. Scion of the Blazing Sun is just behind Hamayumi, and Blackcliff Warbow is usable. It can be powerful with stacks and refinements though. Her teammates are also FTP friendly. If I were to pull her and make a team for her, I'd pick Bennett, Zhangling, and Kazuha. Ganyu is also flexible, relatively. She has several different builds for different teams. Mono Cryo, Melt, Freeze, Sub DPS, she's got builds. Up next, Kaching. First thing, physical or electro build. Well, according to KachingMains.com, physical is good at the beginning, but you should go to electro later once you get a Dendro unit. Physical is good because physical is easier in the early game, and the prototype Rancor is the reward for AR-10. But I will be talking about the electro builds. Some of the pros to the electro build are that it scales better, as well as having greater AoE than physical build. If you happen to pull cons on her too, they buff her electro build. A couple problems with this build are that she relies on having well-invested sub-DPSs, and it's a stamina-heavy playstyle. The best weapons are Mistsplitter Reforged and Primordial Jade Cutter. Mistsplitter does perform better, but Jade Cutter is still very viable. In her Aggravate build, the difference between these two weapons is very small. Harangupaku Futsu is also fairly close in how good it is. For us F2Ps, the best 4-star weapons are Bullfang, which is sadly from BP, and the others are Lion's Roar and Iron Sting. If you are very unlucky and don't have any of these or a Northlander billet, Gatsurubi Ishin, which is obtained through Kazuha's story quest, can work well. These builds go for both her on Aggravate and Electro teams. Teams listed on the site are Kachina or Yao Yao, Official, Kazuha Sucrose or Jilonen, and Kaching herself. The other team is for you whales or lucky people, Nahida, Farina, Baiju, and Kaching. The first team has easy grouping and Electro Swirl setups, that is if you aren't using Jilonen, because then you can't swirl because she's Geo. The second has strong buffs due to Farina. It also allows Hyper Bloom, one of the best reactions in the game. That's all for Kaching. Ladies, I'm single. Why did I say that? Next character is Chi-Chi. She performed worst when I was figuring out who was the best in the current meta. She averaged C's and D's on the tier lists. But she is a low investment and flexible unit. She in fact does have some rare niches where she does shine. That being that she can stand in for a required role in the team. Also, if you've made it this far into the video, it's clearly something that you like about this. So if you would subscribe, that would make me pretty happy. Now, back to the video. Will I be pulling Chi-Chi to make up for my incoherent teams? No, but that isn't because I think she's crap in there. I just happen to be pulling for someone else who hasn't appeared on the banner for a while. Enough of that. Let's get on to Chi-Chi's build. Her best in-slot weapon is actually Favonia's sword, which, if you're anything like me, you should have about 4 of these. If you don't, though, Aquila Favonia, Primordial Jade Cutter, Prototype Rancor, and Sacrificial Sword do well on her. The teams that are listed for her are also F2P friendly. The best ones are Nahida or Dendro Traveler, Yelan Farina or Xingqiu, Raiden or Kuki, and Chi-Chi. The other one is Auroron or Beidou, Fischl, Xingqiu, Yelan or Farina, and Chi-Chi. She is really an amazing healer and makes it almost impossible to end up like our little zombie character. She is also usable as a permafreeze unit. Now, she is not the best pick, but she is the most comfortable in that slot. She goes off of having Cryo Resonance in the team, which, if you don't know, increases the crit rate by 15% against enemies that are frozen or affected by Cryo. She also needs 4-piece Blizz, so she gets another 20 to 40% crit rate, depending on if the enemy is frozen or just affected by Cryo. Teams listed are Chi-Chi and Xingqiu, and also Rosaria or Chongyun. That leaves one spot for a flex unit, such as Mr. Kayadahara Kazuha. Next up, Shenhe. Shenhe is not that flexible of a unit, but performs as one of the best units in Cryo teams. She is also pretty F2P friendly. Her best in-slot weapon is her signature, Calamity Queller, but another really good performing weapon is Favonia's Lance. Other weapons that perform well are Skyward Spine, Wavebreaker, and The Catch, which is obtainable by anyone that has gotten to Inazuma. Also, if anyone is worried about leveling a weapon for someone that will only work for one person, don't worry about the Favonia's Lance or The Catch. They work on a lot of people. Now, what are good teams that she works in? Well, Cryo DPSs are the best. I'm serious. She works as a Cryo buffer, and that's it. Some teams would be either 1 Cryo unit and 1 Hydro, or 2 Cryo units, an Anemo unit or a Jilonen, and of course, Shenhe herself. Another one is a Cryo unit, Bennett, Zhangling, or Kazuha, and Shenhe. These 3 options are Freeze, Mono Cryo, and Melt teams. Now, what are some advantages to Shenhe? Easy to build. I can attest to this after pre-farming her. Big damage bonus to your Cryo units. Opens up Mono Cryo and other non-traditional Cryo teams as effective. She also works in physical teams, like Eula. Some drawbacks? Requires high ER, doesn't deal much personal damage in case all your other units in the team die. Not good in non-Cryo or non-Anemo teams. Anemo can use her Icy Quills because of the absorption. Next character on the banner, Tartar Sauce. First question, what are the advantages and drawbacks? He has fast Hydro application, isn't Constellation reliant, flexible teams, and good in AoE. What are some drawbacks to him, though? He isn't so good in single target, has long downtime potential at the end of rotations, and his rotations are technical. Weapons? For the best in slot, we have Polar Star, 5-star. Unluckily for us F2Ps, another good option is a BP weapon, the Viridescent Hunt. Another, though, is good old Prototype Crescent. Crit 5 stars but performs well on Ajax. What are his teams? Well, of course, we have Bennett, Zhangling, a Flex, and the Youngling himself. Some teammates are Albedo, Kazuha, and Sucrose. These work better over Zhongli, Jean, and Lynette. I know this one was quick in comparison to the others, but moving on, Zhao. His best 5-star weapons are Primordial Jade Winged Spear, Staff of Homa, Calamity Queller, and Vortex Vanquisher. 4-star options are Dragon's Bane, which I don't understand why it's actually on the list, but it is, Deathmatch, Blackcliff Pole, Favonia's Lance, and Missive Wind Spear, which is event locked, sadly. Who are the best teammates? Well, Farazan is good, but he will need a battery if she isn't C6 yet. But if she is C6, she is his best support as well as the battery for the team. But who are the other battery options? There's Jean, Sucrose, Lynette, Sayu, Kazuha, and the Riding Shogun. Good sustain options are Jin Yoon, our good little unlucky adventurer Bennett, Zhongli, Jean, Diona, and Sayu. Last slot is a flex slot. The best options are Farina, of course, Chiori, Albedo, Fischl, Rosaria, Yelan, and Zhangli. Now, some of these flexes are really only valuable in pairs, like Geo characters with Zhongli and Zhangling with Bennett. So what are some pros and cons to Zhao? Pros, he has a large AoE, has minimal investment teams, and his plunges can break object shields and stagger enemies. The plunges won't break the shields so good. They're like the Abyss Mages, Abyss Lectors, or the Pyrohypostases. Some cons are that he is lacking in the F2P weapon department. His constellations are low value, which doesn't really matter to me as an F2P. He is investment heavy to be used as a hyper carry and has limited team options because of how long his elemental burst is. Remember, I don't have these characters. I'm merely going off of research. If you have stuck around until the end, I would love for you to subscribe. If you have a video that you want me to do or have any questions, leave them down in the comment section. With that, I wish you all a good day, may 50/50s favor you, and zombies don't haunt your poles. Goodbye until next time.